unspoken. Is there anybody that wants to say anything before we continue on as far as prayer request goes?
Remember
ahead,
my
yes, ma'am.
son-in-law, Brad Priest.
Have you got any information?
He came home today from the hospital
Okay.
and he's sick and tired.
Okay. And how often is he going to have those treatments?
It's either 3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks.
He'll have to go to UND.
I was allowed to tell this, Alan's mother, Martha Jean, got cancer. She starts her first chemo treatment tomorrow. And so just make sure to keep that family in prayer. Please do that. Anybody else?
We have the women's Bible study tomorrow night at 6. No, it's at 5.
5.
Yes.
5 o'clock, women's Bible study. Anything else?
Also, there's some boxes for the, for the Samaritan's Purse back there, that are already made up. If you want to take a box and pack it, we're gonna have our packing party November the 12th. So, if y'all just have it back, maybe by then, be great. If you have questions, you can talk to me and Suzanne. We'll be glad to answer them for you.
November 12th, packing party.
Yes, and then we'll pray for the children who are gonna receive the boxes
Okay.
the following Sunday. I'm not exactly sure what date that is, but,
So we'll do the packing party that Wednesday night, and then we'll bring all the boxes up here to the church. And then that Sunday after church, we'll have
It'll be
prayer.
16th, is that right?
16th.
Yeah.
And we'll have prayer over the boxes, that Sunday. Anybody else? I have a very unspoken, special unspoken prayer request, a fellow pastor friend of mine. I'm not gonna go into any details, just remember him, he texted me a while ago to remember him. All right, let's go.
You'll stand with us, we'll begin with page 608.
You sure? Okay. I'm just going to get a microphone and start carrying it around like those TV evangelists. That's what I'll do. I wouldn't do that. Daniel chapter 3 and Revelations chapter 13. I'm going to quickly kind of go over a quick intro of what we studied about last week. Daniel chapter 3 is about the simple part of it is not worshiping the things of the world. And basically what Revelations chapter 13 is about is being stuck here during the Great Tribulation and being forced to worship the things of the world. And Revelations chapter 13 and also Daniel chapter 3 is similar in nature. If you look at this, and I'm going to assume that you guys know who King Nebuchadnezzar is. And I'm going to assume that you know who Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is. I'm going to assume. And also, I'm going to assume you've heard of the Antichrist. And I'm going to assume you've heard of the false prophet. And if you haven't, then I don't really have time to go over who they really are in depth. But King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invades Jerusalem, captures all the Jews that are could either read, write, arithmetic, science, anything like that, young. They gather up all those Jews and they take them back to Babylon. And he takes Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego with them, plus several other thousand Jews. And in the book of Daniel chapter 3, there is a person that is missing from this story. And the person that is missing from this story is going to be the man whose name is over the book, and that is Daniel. Now, if a lot of people believe in symbolism in the Old Testament connecting with the New Testament, I believe there is some symbolism of stories in the Old Testament that relate to the New Testament. I do believe that. Now, some people will take the book of Daniel chapter 3, okay? The book of Daniel chapter 3, which is basically the story about the fiery furnace. Every kid has heard this story. And they will take King Nebuchadnezzar, and they will equate King Nebuchadnezzar with the Antichrist that you find in Revelation chapter 13. They say he is symbolic of that figure. They will take Daniel, and they will say that Daniel is a type of the church that you find that is gone during the 7-year tribulation or the rapture. I'm kind of iffy on both of those. Especially with Daniel being symbolic of the church. Daniel is Gentile or Jew? He's Jew. What is the church, Gentile or Jew? Gentile, because it's made up of all races. Now, and then they will say that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is a type of the nation of Israel that you find that is going to be punished, that is going to be murdered, that is going to be executed during the 7-year tribulation that you find in the book of Revelations. So they say that they are a type of Israel. And then they will say that the fiery furnace is a type of the great tribulation. Okay, so with all of that, if you want to believe in that symbolism, that's perfectly fine. There are some connections. But looking at Daniel chapter 3, I believe that there is a connection with King Nebuchadnezzar and also the Antichrist. I believe that. But also what the story engulfs itself is that King Nebuchadnezzar is going to demand everyone worship this golden image that is going to be set up. And if they do not worship this golden image that is going to be set up, which is 90 feet high, 9 feet wide, what is going to happen to those people that do not worship this golden image? They are going to be killed. All right, now, let's go to Revelations chapter 13. Revelations chapter 13. All right. We went through the book of Revelations several months ago, so we'll touch on some things that we looked at in Revelations, but not much of it. In Revelations chapter 13, I'm going kind of quickly over this before we get into some new stuff. Revelations chapter 13, you are introduced to two individuals. In Revelations chapter 13, if you believe in the 7-year tribulation, which I believe that there's going to be a 7-year tribulation, A lot of people say that there's not going to be a 7-year tribulation, that we are just going to be raptured up, and God is going to separate the sheep from the goats, and that's it. There's no millennial, there's no 7-year tribulation, and those people are called postmillennials, all right? And then you have people that I believe are premillennial, which means we are going to be raptured up, the church. There is going to be a treaty made with the nation of Israel, because remember, the 7-year tribulation is all about one country and one country only, Israel, about bringing Israel back to God. This Antichrist, which is a person, which I believe is a Gentile, is going to set up a 7-year treaty with the nation of Israel. 3.5 years into that treaty, he's going to break that treaty, and he's going to demand to be worshiped as a god, and Israel is going to refuse to do that, and then he is going to basically put a price on everyone's head, especially Jew, that does not worship him. And that is the latter part of the 7-year of the Great Tribulation, which is the last 3.5 years. And this Great Tribulation is also known as Jacob's trouble. Jacob was a Jew. So it is going to be primarily focused on the Jews. Now, are there going to be Christians that's going to come through the Great Tribulation? Absolutely. We've already discussed that about John seeing these people in robes of white, and he said, I've seen thousands times 10,000s times 10,000s, and he specifically asked the angel, who are those people out there? He said, these are the ones that came through the Great Tribulation. Now, having said all that, there is a person that you're going to be introduced to in Revelation chapter 13 who is a type, all right, who is a type of King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar is wanting to be worshiped, not so much himself, but what is to be worshiped in Daniel chapter 3. Keep this in mind. It is not the person King Nebuchadnezzar, it is the image that represents King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar never says, worship me. He says, worship this image that I have set up that resembles me. In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, during the last part of the 7-year tribulation, last 3.5 years, you're going to be introduced to two individuals. You're going to be introduced to a person that is called the Antichrist, and you're going to be introduced to a person called the false prophet. Now, and I missed something. If you go back to Daniel, and I know I'm giving you a lot of information, if you go back to Daniel chapter 3, there's going to be some individuals who are going to be the mouthpiece for King Nebuchadnezzar. And these are the princesses and the counselors and those individuals who go and they basically tattletale on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They are, some people say they are a type of the false prophet. Now, getting back to Revelation chapter 13. Has everybody got this so far? Make sense? All right. In Revelation chapter 13, the false prophet and the Antichrist are going to be found in Revelation chapter 13. In verse 1, the John the Revelator is what we call him, or John the Apostle, says that he sees an individual or a great beast or a beast come up out of the sea. All right? And in the Old Testament, the sea is always represented as something of the world, or an abyss, or bottomless. It's never referred to as something that is holy or heavenly, the ocean. So he says, I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast, this is Revelation 13:1, rise up out of the sea, having, now keep this in mind, 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. All right, so he's got 7, 10, 10. And they were upon his head, and his name was Blasphemy. Now, anything that goes against the worship of the true God is blasphemy. If you worship anything but the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jehovah, that is blasphemy. So what is happening now? You see this beast that is going to be rising up out of the sea, and we've talked about this a few months ago when we were going through Revelations. John is describing what he has been able to see thus far. When he starts describing other events that happen, he is only using words that he is capable of using. It would be like, let's say 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you all of a sudden know the future. Let's just say you know the future like John. You go tell some of your buddies, guess what? One of these days there's going to be something called the internet. there's going to be this thing called Google. It's going to be a search engine. And you're going to be able to type in stuff and on this computer. And they're first of all going to go, what's the computer? What's the internet? And who's Google? They have no idea but you're just describing, they don't have no idea what you're talking about because it's yet to be invented or yet to happen. With John, he is only describing something that has yet to happen or yet to be invented, and he is only using the words that he can comprehend. So he describes this Antichrist as a beast coming out of the sea with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns, okay? And we'll get into that here in a second. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet was like a bear, and his mouth was like a lion, and the dragon. Now, the dragon and the Antichrist are 2 separate individuals. The dragon is also known as who? The devil. We're introduced to him back in the book of Genesis, and he's often described as a dragon. He's often described as a serpent. So the power that is going to be given to this Antichrist, this man, this person, is going to be given to him by the dragon or Satan. The dragon gave him his power, and his seat are the great authority. And then you start going down, and we'll get into this here in a little bit, but if you go now to verses 11, you're introduced to another person. Okay, keep in mind, verses 1 introduces you to the Antichrist. Verses 11 introduces you to another person called a beast, and he is known as the false prophet. Okay? He's going to be the spokesman or the PR person, so to speak, for the Antichrist. And I beheld, and I promise I'm going to weave this in to Daniel chapter 3, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. Okay, now, why is it coming up out of the earth? If you go back to the book of Genesis, you had 2 individuals by the name of Cain and Abel. All right? Abel brought a sacrifice to God that was an animal blood sacrifice, correct? But what did Cain bring to God? Something that was grown up out of the earth. Okay? Now, what did God curse when man was separated from God? He cursed what? The earth and the ground, right? Anything that grows up is going to be cursed. So anything that is coming up out of the ground or viewed as the earth is always cursed, okay? So you have somebody coming up out of the sea, which is the abyss, or somebody coming, and another person coming up out of the earth, which is cursed. This beast comes up out of the earth, and he's different because he only has 2 horns, one like a lamb, but he spake like a dragon. He is a false prophet. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing, so to speak. Okay? So the first one has 7, 10, and 10, and the other has 2 horns. One's going to be like a lamb, one's going to be like a dragon. And then, if you look in verses 14, we'll get into the wound and all that. Go to verses 14. And he deceiveth them that dwell upon the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do into the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell upon the earth,